This is Visitor's Book, and I'm Maija, your host. In this program, we're going to be meeting with diplomats and foreigners who live here in Pakistan, and we're going to find out what they really think about the country. So let's go. So our guest today is Haitham Naser, a Jordanian journalist who's based here in Pakistan. So let's go meet with him. Hi Haitham, so nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
How are you?
Very good, alhamdulillah. How are you?
Good, good, despite the heat and the humidity.
It was very hot.
Otherwise, I'm good.
Same here.
So, you've been here in Pakistan since 2007, right? How did you first end up here?
Actually, I was a journalist in Jordan.
Okay.
I worked with 2-3 Jordanian channels before Pakistan. My uncle was in Pakistan for the last 20 plus years when I came to Pakistan. He was a journalist too.
Oh, really? What a coincidence.
So he introduced the idea to me. At that time, there was tension between Musharraf and the Supreme Court, and there was the Lal Masjid case.
Right.
So one of the Arabic channels needed a reporter. So he said, come for a few months or 1 year only.
Yeah.
The plan was to visit Pakistan for a year and work for one channel. And then it extended to now 10, 11 years almost.
So what did your uncle tell you about Pakistan that made you think like, okay, I want to go there?
He told me a lot of stories before the introduction to visit. Whenever he visited us in Jordan, he would tell a lot of stories about Pakistan. And Pakistan is an interesting country for anybody.
Yeah.
For Jordanians or for Arabs, it's like mysterious country because it has all the subcontinent stories, the Indian subcontinent stories, culture and food and clothes, everything. Yani. And at the same time, it's an Islamic country and a nuclear country, and they have tension with a lot of their neighbors, which is also relatable for Arab country people. And there were a lot of stories about Pakistan historically in Jordan, in Palestine, in different countries, which are related to the relations with Pakistan, and some are related to the struggle of Pakistanis, either in Kashmir or in independence, or in different wars. There were 3 wars. So, of course, we hear about Pakistan when there is big news.
Right.
Normally, the Arab media or Jordanian media won't cover about Pakistan unless there is a major event. So this is what you used to hear about Pakistan, and my uncle built a little more of it. That this kind of culture has this kind of ethnicity has this kind of habits or traditions, so it built up kind of interest.
Yeah. And your family was already used to your uncle being here. Was he based in Islamabad or somewhere else?
He was in Peshawar first, then he came to Islamabad. But when he visited Jordan, he was in Islamabad for 15 years. Out of 20.
Yeah. So what did your mom or your siblings, for example, what did they say when you were like, okay, I'm going to do the same thing?
The first step, which is going to Pakistan for a few months or 1 year, nobody objected. Okay, go try your luck. But when it extended, 2nd year, 3rd year, the objections start. Why? Why would you do this to yourself? Why you are still there? You don't want to come back? Why do you love Pakistan this much? And they assumed already the main reason that you love Pakistan more than you love Jordan or love other countries, which is not the story. I love Pakistan, but not comparing with my homeland. But this is what they thought, that there is something that makes people attached to this place or to this country, which explains why my uncle spent 20 years and I'm spending more years here.
So then when you arrived here, what was your first impression of the country?
In general, everything in Pakistan is interesting because everything can look something on the surface. And when you dig deep or research about it, there are a lot of other complicated issues that cause this scene you have observed in the culture or in the social life or in anything you are covering or even interacting with during your daily life.
Yeah, there's always a lot of context to everything, I think. So what do you think was the biggest difference to Jordan, what you noticed first when you came?
Biggest difference to Jordan? I think it's also the media rule to some extent, comparing with Jordan or Arab countries at that time, because I came in 2007. The rule of media changed after Arab Spring in 2011. But before that, the role of media in Arabic countries was limited to some extent.
Yeah.
So in Jordan, in Pakistan, the role of media was huge. Media was challenging governments, covering controversial stories, political stories, with or against political parties. So it was interesting in this sense. It's a huge difference for a journalist. Yeah.
Of course.
Because in Arabic countries in general, not only in Jordan, you cover very limited political stories and from a specific perspective, and there are a lot of limitations and I would say constraints around your coverage. In Pakistan, there are still taboos and areas you should not cover in general, but it's much better. For a journalist, you cover a lot of social issues, cultural issues, political issues without much worrying about the reactions.
Yeah, exactly. What about in terms of the society? Like, is Jordan more like an urbanized country or rural? Like, how would you compare that to Pakistan?
Much more, I would say. Like, percentage of education in Jordan is 97, 98.
So that's a huge difference,
and by all aspects, education, health sector, all services are better in Jordan. But
and it's very
small country. But freedom of speech is not better. Although international ranking would put Pakistan below Jordan, but as for experience, it's different because the international ranking take in consideration only how many people got arrested, how many people. But overall, as for your experience, I feel Pakistan is much more free in covering 70, maybe 80% of the issues. While it's not the same case in Jordan or Egypt or any other Arab country. Beside that, I think Jordan is socially much more, I would say, liberal. The understanding of Islamic rules or Islamic culture is different in Arab countries in general, and in Jordan specifically, you can't compare it to Pakistan.
So, where are you from exactly in Jordan?
From Amman.
Okay, so the capital.
Capital, yes.
What was it like growing up there?
Amman is very dynamic city. You have a lot to do. I used to study in the university between 8 to 2 o'clock. So I'd leave my house at 6 o'clock and I'd reach back by midnight.
Oh, wow.
Because after 4 o'clock or after the main activities of the university, we have a lot of activities to do. So I used to work as a journalist also. After intern in the beginning, and then youth issues coverage, and I worked for many organizations. But in the beginning, Jordan is full of social and cultural activities. And the city itself, even in Jordan, Amman is considered to be a different situation altogether, because all of the activities are in Amman. All of the focus of economic and cultural activities are in Amman. So it was a lot of learning, I would say.
I can imagine.
And that helped me a lot here, because in Amman during that time, between 2000 to 2007, during my university degree and after that few years of work, it was Iraq war, Lebanese issues, Palestinian issues. So a lot of refugees came to Jordan. We got involved in covering a lot of different issues from different perspectives. So when I came to Pakistan, it's a similar situation. There is Afghan war, Afghan refugees. So it helped me a lot.
I can imagine. And how did you first get the idea that you wanted to become a journalist?
It was when I was 12, 13. I was in
early.
School. Because inspired by my uncle, because he was a journalist. Second, at that time, news channel were new phenomena for Arab countries. For more than 40 years of independence for Arab countries, it was the state channel. And you watch the state channel, maybe one or two other state channels. And in the 90s, international Arabic channels came into being, MBC, Al Jazeera, few names. So journalism became something for young people that, this is an interesting job. Before that, it wasn't tempting for anybody, because it's very boring job. You cover state things and that's it. So that was the first thing. And then I started a show in our school. It was called, what I can translate into an observation in our school.
Okay.
And that observation was some kind of coverage and criticism of different habits or different approaches from the administration against the students' bodies and how we do activities. And so this was the beginning, I would say.
Yeah. And had your uncle been working for like the state channel, or how did he get into journalism if he was your inspiration?
No, he was here to study first.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And then he started working for newspapers, international Arabic newspapers in Pakistan. So he started here in Pakistan. His link with journalism before coming to Pakistan was only writing in different magazines in Jordan and Palestine and other countries, but it wasn't journalism. But here he established himself.
Right. And would you say you were always interested in like traveling abroad or to different countries as a journalist?
Even before I became a journalist, I was interested in traveling because it was tempting since our childhood to visit other countries, to see other cultures, to understand the differences. Because we used to watch documentaries about other countries on the state channel again, which will make us more interested to know more. So that was the main reason. I visited Lebanon, I visited UAE, I visited a few countries before I came to Pakistan, and it was all interesting because I was part of youth organizations in Jordan, which was very active at that time. And it was an experience of youth exchange, you can say. So we used to visit other countries in conferences and youth empowerment and different political issues. Which also got us a lot of friends in other countries. So it was part of my understanding that you should visit other countries. And Pakistan was a huge step because it wasn't
so
in
far,
the region, it was far. And a lot of question marks, no much information except few stories. So it was interesting.
Yeah, and I mean, if we think about that time, the security situation here was also quite different. Like 2007, 8, and 9 were like the worst years. I mean, it's nothing like that anymore. But at that time, I mean, you mentioned that obviously Jordan is situated in a very volatile area with like Palestine, Israel, Iraq. Do you think that helped you kind of to assess the security situation here as well and not maybe be so worried about it?
Yeah, to some extent, but again, the main reason was my uncle. If he wasn't here, I wouldn't come to Pakistan because the information you get at that time is so limited and you cannot be sure about it, because most of the coverage, most of the news which we receive about Pakistan wasn't that positive in Arabic countries or international media. So it's difficult to judge, you will live peacefully and your job will go well. But I came as a challenge or as adventure. Okay, let's try 3 months, 6 months. If it doesn't work, I'll go back to Jordan and go on with what I was doing already. And it continued.
So what was the reason you decided to stay here then?
I wouldn't say I decided to stay. It just happened, because there was no decision that, I'll spend 5 years or 10 years. It was, I came in 2007, tension was extreme, it was very interesting. For almost 2 years in Pakistan, at least 2 to 3 years, if you are a journalist, you still have a lot to cover. You feel that it's a very interesting country. I covered economy for 1 year or 2 years. I covered social issues. I covered women issues for maybe 2 years or 3 years. So it was exploration of different issues, different societies. Because Pakistan is a lot of societies. It's not...
Exactly, it's not just one,
So that was interesting. I didn't feel the time. Every day I am going for a different story. This is for first 3 years. But after that, what's the next step? Then Arab Spring happened in 2011. So this made it a little bit different for us. Because going back to Jordan was also a calculation to be done. But also Pakistan did not stop. The activities, the security situation got under control. There were a lot of other stories. There were a lot of developments politically. Nawaz Sharif back to power, the election, also Afghanistan situation. There were a lot of things to cover in this region that you would never dream of covering similar in Arabic countries now.
All right, time to take a short break. See you in a bit. Welcome back. I'm here with Haitham Naser, a journalist from Jordan. So when you said you started working as a journalist in Jordan, what type of stories did you cover there, and what made you decide to go into TV journalism in particular?
I covered mostly youth issues, human rights issues in Jordan for a newspaper. Then I worked with 2-3 TV channels as a producer, as a field reporter too. And in Jordan, it was mostly social issues, cultural issues, and youth issues, as I said. That time, youth empowerment was you can say, a trend or a new thing in Jordan. And more students of universities were interested to get training related to journalism and related to human rights and empowerment in general, economic and social empowerment. And still it's going on till now, but at that time it was the peak, the beginning of it. So it was interesting for us to cover those stories and to introduce our generation, if I can say, to this kind of activities and how to express yourself. And in 2009, I think, also I was still in contact after I came back to Pakistan with the organizations I worked with. Blogging also was very famous in Jordan. Jordan was a hub of bloggers for the Arabic countries for a few years.
Oh, wow.
And the first 2 hosting services of bloggers were in Jordan. Maybe you are familiar with the names. It was Maktoob and Jiran before Facebook and other social media websites are very famous in this region. So I wrote a book about bloggers and how to be a blogger and how you write about different social and cultural things that attract more visitors, and this got also a lot of good feedback in Jordan. And still till now I give training related to this issue online, or give consultancy to people how to introduce your ideas, because it's still, blogging is still a thing even with the presence of social media. Writing a material that attracts the readers is totally different from Instagram stories and Facebook posts and a little bit of visual content which can get the attention, but it loses the credibility very quickly. Written material is different in this sense, and there are a lot of bloggers who still have a lot of influence in Arab countries and even here in Pakistan. So this was the main thing I worked on in Jordan before coming to Pakistan. And TV journalism in general was interesting because it gives a lot of tools. You can explain the story different. When you work in print media, it's only the words, the quotation of the person. With the visual stories, you explain all what you want to say without mentioning it in the script. So it gives you a lot of tools. So that was interesting.
And you already mentioned that the media in Jordan wasn't that free at the time, but do you think people have the same kind of interest towards news as in Pakistan? Like, you see so many different news channels in Pakistan. It's almost like a form of entertainment for people here. Is there anything like that in Arab countries?
Now there is. Because Arab Spring 2011 changed a lot.
That changed everything.
So now there are more than 12 channels maybe in Jordan, more than 100 news websites, other than the entertainment websites. There are a lot of production companies, there are a lot of influencers or social media influencers. So it's a variety of options for people, which from media perspective, it's not much of content, it's more of distraction, and it's a long debate. But there are a lot of options now. At that time when I came, it was very limited. It was, state channel, 2, 3 internet or regional channels, and even jobs were limited. Till now, you will see a Jordanian journalist in almost every international channel which speaks Arabic.
Yeah.
Because I think Jordan exports journalists.
At least in your case, yeah.
In my case, in many other, in Dubai, in Abu Dhabi, in Qatar, in Turkey, in many other countries, you will find the Jordanian or at least 5 to 10 Jordanian journalists in every channel.
That's so interesting. But what about like the interest towards international news? Because like maybe here in Pakistan, people mainly follow local news, which is understandable, of course, because there's so much happening here. What about in Jordan?
I think in Jordan we are more interested in international news. We have a thing in Jordan that every Jordanian is 50% an international relations analyst.
Oh, really?
You will see people sitting in a coffee shop, but he will try to explain why Russia and America is fighting in Syria about 1, 2, 3, 4. And the origin of the story happened in Ukraine before a few years. So we are interested in international news. And this came because of the Palestinian, Israeli issues, Jordanian Palestinians, all the Arab countries were involved in international politics for more than 60, 70 years.
Exactly.
So we all discuss this all the time. When the news are available, okay, it's more data. It's more content for us to include in our analysis. If we leave aside if it's accurate or not accurate analysis, but all of us are analysts, and it goes same for sports also. We love international sports. You have more Real Madrid supporters in Jordan than maybe in in big cities of Spain. And Barcelona same, and Liverpool and Manchester United. You can see Jordanian people are more international citizens. They live with international events which is also debatable in intellectual circles in Jordan. That are they trying to run away from their local issues? Are they not concerned? Or it's a defense mechanism? It's a long debate. Why? But this is what's happening. So it is attracting attention. Even when I post now on social media about Pakistan, we need to hear more about this.
Oh, really?
Please write more about this issue. They want to compare between our culture and Pakistani culture.
That's so fascinating. What kind of stories would you say like generate the most interest about Pakistan?
For normal people or for the news channels?
Both, maybe.
I think there is also critical analysis, you can say, or critical reading of this, because most of the news channels for Arab countries, which covered Pakistan for the last 30, 40 years, I said this in many conferences also in Pakistan, for the last 30 to 40 years, whoever told the story about Pakistan was either funded by a state channel or funded by a website which is internationally linked somehow.
Right.
Because most of the big channels in Arabic countries are from Gulf countries, rich countries, or small websites, independent websites which are trying to cover Pakistan somehow. He mentioned some stories about Pakistan, which made the content about Pakistan limited to specific type of news.
Right.
Okay, the explosion, political tension, it's mainstream kind of stories. So this is what interests channels, but what interests people is more the cultural part. They want to understand how people live, what type of people are they. They are half Indians, half Muslims. This is the slogan. What are they exactly? Do they wear sari? Or they wear Muslim burqa, or what's the? Because they see different pictures from Afghanistan, so their image about the subcontinent Muslims is a little confused.
Right.
So whatever you tell them about even the marriage culture, the traditions of weddings, the traditions of food, it's always interesting for normal people.
Yeah. What are some of your favorite stories that you've covered here? I think you did a story about so-called rishta aunties. Here?
Marriage and rishta aunties.
Because
it's similar to Pakistan, to Jordanian culture or Arab culture, but in Pakistan it has a lot of more spices to it.
Yeah.
Because in Jordan there is so-called rishta auntie, the lady who arranged the first visit between two families. But in Pakistan it's more than that. It's more of, you can say it's a business.
Yeah,
the rishta auntie is somebody who has authority. She gives a good option or a bad option. She judges the lady or the boy. It's like an interview. You go to impress her first. before impressing the groom or impressing the bride. And she plays a significant role in this culture, because the Rishta auntie can make an alliance between two big families.
True.
Because she brought two of their sons or daughters together, or she will make them fight because the Rishta did not happen. So there is ego issues. So the Rishta auntie was a very interesting story, and I want to cover it more. I think Rishta auntie deserves to be a documentary in Pakistan, because it's a lot of things. It's not only the marriage concept and the wedding. It's also the image of woman, the image of the family.
Yeah.
What's marriage itself for the Pakistani family? Pakistani family is very attached. So marriage is not a plan of two people want to get married. It's a plan of two families want to build business, want to get stable, image, social status. A lot of things are involved, which causes a lot of other problems also.
Yeah.
So Rishta auntie is not, what do you call it? She's not in the good books of young ladies, because they hate her. They think that she's the punishment. Whenever whenever the Rishta auntie is visiting their house, it's panicking every girl in the house.
Yeah.
Who will be the target and what will be the next step of the Rishta auntie. So it's a very interesting story, and I still think it can be covered from different perspectives.
Yeah. What other stories would you say were like something that created a lot of interest in Arab countries that you did from here?
I would say food stories and women-related stories generally create a lot of interest.
Really?
Because I think it's the same struggle. The women in Jordan and in Arabic countries are facing some difficulties. Nothing compared with what Pakistani women is facing.
So another interesting story that you did was on tourism in Kashmir. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
It was in 2008, I think. Prime Minister of Kashmir invited us to cover different stories. No, we proposed an interview with Prime Minister of Kashmir at that time about political issues. So since we were visiting Kashmir, we proposed a few other stories about the tourism. And at that time, I knew a little bit about Kashmir, from political perspective. But when we visited Kashmir, it's amazing place for tourists. A lot of people in Pakistan do not even visit it.
Yeah.
And the rivers, the mountains, the weather in Kashmir, the hospitality also of people. In Kashmir, people, they want to tell you about their cause, but in the beginning, they want you to love the place.
Yeah.
So they will be very hospitable in food, in guiding you around and taking you to places and visiting different spots inside Kashmir. And then they will tell you a little bit of what they are struggling through and what caused the problem and the Pakistan-India tension, etc., etc. But Kashmir is very interesting because also the people of Kashmir are highly motivated. They want to talk about different issues. They ask about the rest of Pakistan. They don't visit. A lot of them do not visit regularly. So even if you are a foreigner and you are going for a visit, you are kind of a link with the outside, that we hear these stories, we hear those stories. So it's interesting. It's different kind of tourism. A lot of places to visit. Pictures you will take in Kashmir you will not see anywhere else. And it's all together. There is a river, mountains, historical places, green, and perfect weather at the same time.
I'd love to be there right now. Then you also received an award for your journalism here in Pakistan.
In 2014, I was covering for Saudi Economic Channel for more than 2 years. And in Pakistan, covering economy is not an easy job.
Right.
Because till now, if you read the economic stories, economy is even confusing for economists in Pakistan. For politicians, they will tell one story today and then after a few weeks, no, we changed our mind. We are doing this now. Okay, we are doing this policy. Because there are a lot of complicated issues in gathering data about economy in Pakistan. So what happened is I covered it for more than 2 years تقريبا every day or two one story about Pakistan economy, electricity issues, World Bank and IMF loans, a lot of things. So at that time what got notice of it was Pakistan Economy Watch, which is a Pakistani organization which focus on how economy is going on. They make reports about economy and how different organizations are responding.
Okay.
In 2014, they decided to give me the award of the best foreign economic journalist.
Oh, that's amazing.
It was at that time. But then what happened, I think there was a little change in the policies of my channel. So we decreased the coverage and it changed. But in Pakistan, from my perception, if you don't understand economy, all of the other issues you understood about Pakistan are still not complete picture. Economy is the engine for everything.
Interesting.
So that helped me a lot to understand a lot of political issues, social issues, and also cultural issues, dealing with international organizations, international, you can say, loans and different other things. So this was one of the best things I learned in Pakistan.
Yeah. And you've also spent a little bit of time working in Afghanistan, and you mentioned also UAE and Lebanon. How would you compare those countries to Pakistan?
You can't compare.
Yeah.
It's very difficult. I went to Pakistan twice, 1 week each or 2 weeks each. It was covering either election or campaign in Afghanistan. So that was limited experience. It was only in Kabul, limited stories, interviewing different political figures and few social or humanitarian stories from Kabul, and that's it. But in Afghanistan, you feel that everything is always on the edge.
Yeah.
It might go this way, it might go that way. There is no sense of stability that, okay, you can do this today, you can do it tomorrow. There's no such thing. Plus, I think the image of media is negative in Afghanistan in general, international media, whatever it is. Yeah. And especially because I came from Pakistan, it wasn't that positive dealing with me because to a great extent, Afghani media projects Pakistan in a negative way.
Yes, that's true. Yeah.
So, because I'm coming from Pakistan, they were criticizing Pakistan to me that, okay, Pakistan is doing this, Pakistan is doing... So I had to explain a lot of point of views and differences and this, to make, okay, it's not that like that. You need to understand different perspective.
Right? Yeah.
So that was the experience in Afghanistan. In Lebanon, it's similar to Jordan, although the freedom in Lebanon is much better. Because of a lot of things. Lebanon is like Afghanistan, but less extremism, you can say.
Because less conservative, much less conservative, I would say.
Because in Lebanon there is political struggle for more than 45, 50 years. No political party have ruled for more than 2-3 years maximum. Every few years there are a lot of changes. And same ethnicities, religion, a lot of things. But there is freedom of speech, there is acceptance of each other. There is live and let live, whoever does what he wants. So that was different in covering their stories, it's different. In UAE, I visited Al-An TV, I was covering for Al-An TV, I visited Al-An TV. And from UAE, it's normal, it's more because you know UAE and Dubai, it's more economic stories.
Yeah.
It's pure, okay, this is happening, let's cover and explain how this project is going on and what's the interaction or reaction to it. So these are the categories, if you can say.
Yeah. All right, we're going to take a short break. I'll see you when we come back. Welcome back. I'm here in conversation with Haitham Naser, a journalist from Jordan. So let's talk a little bit about coronavirus. I mean, it's obviously affected all of our lives. How have you had to change the way you work here in Pakistan now?
For media specifically, it was a challenge because we didn't stop. Coronavirus itself is big news.
Big news.
We have to cover it. So the lockdown did not limit our movement, but it limited our options for coverage because people are locked down.
Exactly.
They are in their houses. And even transportation movement is limited.
Yeah.
And there were constraints or limitations of what to cover and how to cover. For example, if you want to even cover a hospital in Islamabad now, you need a sequence of permissions, and maybe you'll get it, maybe not. And how would you cover corona without a hospital footage or any patient? And also because of the sensitivity of the issue, social image and other issues, even patients wouldn't be comfortable in giving statements after they recovered, even if they are fine. So it was difficult in this sense for the coverage. For the lifestyle, it affected us like everybody, like limited activities. But for any foreigner, for any person who's living in another country, it's already challenging.
Exactly.
Before the pandemic, it's already challenging because your social circle is limited, your movement is limited, and it's specific people you communicate with. After the lockdown, it got more complicated because I think psychologically it got us all self-involved.
Yeah.
Every family, even Pakistani families and friends, okay, khalas, he or she is concerned with their family, with their daily life, how to survive, how to run their own issues. So it became a little bit more difficult in that sense. Yani you feel more not lonely, I would say, less social.
Yeah.
But now we got used to it to some extent, like how we made our peace with it, that this is a phase.
Yeah, this is the new normal now.
The new normal, and it's a phase. It will develop some new skills of surviving, and then we'll move on.
Did you used to travel quite a bit in Pakistan for the stories that you were covering?
Yes, I visited Lahore, Karachi, Peshawar. Once we visited Swat and Kashmir, of course.
Yeah, and then that must have also been a bit of a challenge now that you couldn't travel all of a sudden.
But like, Islamabad is very multicolor city. So you can cover a lot of stories from Islamabad and Rawalpindi, that's the twin city. But I miss a lot of coverage in Lahore now because of the pandemic. Because Lahore is the cultural hub.
Exactly.
If you want to cover all types of reactions to any new situation, you need to go to Lahore.
Exactly.
So this we couldn't cover because of Corona. But I hope we can soon go to Lahore and cover different things. And what we couldn't express from our coverage here in Islamabad, we can cover in the future.
And when was the last time you got to go home to Jordan?
I last visited before 7 years or 8 years, I think. And
that's a long time.
But my mother visited before a few months, before Corona actually. She came in December or January, تقريبا 1 month, and she spent most of the time in Islamabad.
Oh, that's amazing. What would you say was the highlight of her visit?
Highlight of her visit, she was amused by the greenery. That she said this place is very green. You have trees everywhere. You have, which is not the case in Jordan. Jordan is one of the poorest countries in water, drinking water or agriculture water.
It's mainly desert.
It's not تقريبا 90% desert, and we live in the 4% of agriculture area. The main green area, we live in that area. So it's not familiar to see all of this green places everywhere. This was one thing, and she was amused by the differences in culture. She used to ask a lot of questions about how they deal with this situation, why they are reacting this way, why they are acting this way.
So she was fascinated.
She was fascinated with the social and cultural things. But she was also overwhelmed by how hospitable is the Pakistani people. Because they will whenever they knew that she's a visitor because the way she looks, the way she speaks, it looks different. So they will used to offer her different things, that welcome her in different way, and show her different products, and this. So this made her visit more happy, you can say.
Did she cook you some Jordanian food while she was here, or did you take her out to try Pakistani dishes?
Both, because I didn't want her to spend her time in the house or in the kitchen.
Exactly.
So she cooked few dishes that I missed for a very long time.
Because you can't find them here, or
yes, it's very difficult to find Arabic food in Pakistan, and I still eat Arabic food. I cook myself, and I manage to find some type of Arabic food in different places in Islamabad, but it's not the same.
Yeah, of course.
And a lot of dishes are not, even the material is not available, so there is no option. So she helped us for a while in this, and other than this, she tried a lot of Pakistani dishes. Of course, the spicy part wasn't
That's a problem.
welcomed for any Jordanian or Palestinian or from the Arab region, but she managed it somehow. My sister liked the Pakistani food. She came also.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, their experience was in general very good, but they were amused by the differences in culture and the understanding of things.
Wow.
Religious things, cultural things, wedding related. Again, same.
Exactly,
woman or marriage related issues. And there is one other story that they thought I spent all of this time in Pakistan, that I must have got married to a Pakistani. So they came as an investigation group also.
I can imagine. And then
what's
they
your
found
story?
nothing.
Nothing, wallahi. But when they understood the differences in culture, they got the point that it's not happening for this reason, so we understand.
Okay. So where did you take them? I mean, you were mostly here in Islamabad, but did you take them to Lahore or somewhere nearby?
No, it was very cold at that time, and my mother also had some health issues, so we couldn't travel much.
Right.
But Islamabad is big, for 2-3 weeks visit, you can do a lot of activities for somebody who came for the first time.
Yeah, exactly.
So we did a lot of activities in Islamabad, Munal, Margila, mountains, the lake view. We went to Rawalpindi also for shopping. She saw the real market in Pakistan, how it looks like. And a lot of things inside Islamabad, different markets, different parks, and this.
Great. So you mentioned that when you're a foreigner in a country like Pakistan, your social circle is naturally a little bit limited. But do you have mostly Arab friends or Pakistani friends here, or just a mixture of foreigners and locals?
I can say mixture now, but in the beginning it was extremely Arabs, or only Arabs to some extent. And foreigners in general, not only Arabs, foreigners from different countries, either Arab countries or Western countries, Eastern countries, Asian countries. But after first 5 years, I can say it converted to the opposite. I have more Pakistani circles than the Arab circles, and now it's balanced. Now after 11 years, it's balanced. I have 50-50, you can say, or 60-70 towards Pakistani friends, because I think when you are limited to your circle, which is the same culture, the same people you came with, or from the same countries, you don't learn anything.
Exactly.
There is not much to understand about the country or enjoy, or you are in the same limited circle, same limited activities. It's repeating of the same routine. But with Pakistani people, it's always a new story. Yeah. Every single week or month, there is a new type of activities, new type of struggles also. So you become part of that, which is also interesting socially.
Do you think you've learned something interesting about Pakistanis through your friendship, something that you wouldn't have maybe realized otherwise?
For friendship, friendship as a concept is the same everywhere, but in Pakistan, it's hard, it's very difficult to find a good friend. But when you find that one, it's worth keeping for your lifetime.
True
because I don't want to criticize social habits in Pakistan, because the differences, culture, ethnicities, there are a lot of reasons for conflicts in this culture. Even in the same family, in the same house, in the same classroom, or in the same any place, there are a lot of reasons for conflicts. Those who manage through the conflicts, there are unique currency in this culture. So if you find that type of people, it's worth saving for your as a lifetime friend. So this is what I learned to do. I have few friends, Pakistani friends, but I wouldn't trade them with anybody else in the world.
So, have you learned any Urdu while you've been here?
Yes, but not that much. Not that good Urdu. I can understand if any people are speaking Urdu in front of me. I can understand. Okay. But I wouldn't speak fluently because it's difficult. The structure of the sentence is different between Arabic and Urdu. Although there are similarities in the phrases between Arabic and Urdu, but it's not the same structure. And to some extent in Islamabad, and for a media person, you speak English most of the time, so we didn't feel the need of it. Okay. But in communicating with friends, and I learned a lot. I wouldn't say I speak Urdu.
What about when you're reporting? Do you need to use like an interpreter always, or?
Normally, no, because our issues are very clear to be covered. So we ask the question, half of it might be in English, and half of it I'll express it in Urdu. But if we are visiting some place which needs interpretation or translator, we have our producer or our production team. So if it's Pashto or Saraiki or Punjabi, or it's difficult for us.
So how would you say people normally react to hearing Arabic here in Pakistan while you're maybe reporting? Have there been any interesting stories related to that?
There was a story before a few weeks or so. It got repeated again and again many times. Yeah. But I was recording my PTC, my signature in the report, and few people came and they stopped on the side. So I kept recording. Yeah. When I finished, they all said Ameen. So they thought that I'm doing pray or dua. Of course. And this is their duty after that, to say Ameen.
That's so funny, because they thought like it's Arabic, so it must be something religious.
Something religious or Quran or dua or something.
Oh, that's so funny. All right, then it's time for our rapid fire round. Are you ready?
Ready.
Okay. Shalwar kameez or Western clothes?
Western clothes.
Okay. Lahore or Karachi?
Lahore.
Mangoes or apples?
In Pakistan, mangoes, otherwise apple.
Oh, okay. Yeah, Pakistani mangoes are amazing. Amman or Islamabad?
It's very difficult to choose between them. I would say Islamabad.
Oh, yeah? Okay. Mansaf or chicken biryani?
Mansaf. I'm Mansaf deprived now. So.
Okay. Petra or Taxila?
Petra.
An Arab souk or a Pakistani bazaar?
Pakistani bazaar, of course.
Yeah?
It's more interesting, more options.
Right? Okay. The first thought that comes to your mind when I say Margalla Hills?
I would say peace.
Yeah. The northern areas of Pakistan?
I wish to visit.
Yeah. Qawwali music?
Maybe a Sufi sense.
Yeah. The Dead Sea?
I miss too much.
The best thing about Pakistan?
Best thing about Pakistan would be Pakistani people.
Great. Okay, then you can write in our visitors book.
Okay, thank you.
So let's see what you wrote. I love Pakistan because of how much I learned and how much I want to project Pakistan better for Arab people. That's great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I had such a great time and we had such an interesting conversation.
Me too. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That's it for today. Please join me again next week. And don't forget to follow us on our social media accounts at indus.news. Stay safe, stay home. Goodbye.